So, welcome. Thank you for joining me. And if you haven't met me before, my name is Lisa Higgins, and I'm a lymphedema therapist and a medical intuitive. Although I'm getting used to the idea of calling myself an intuitive mentor, which is where I'm heading after running a course last year. So today I'm going to be talking to you about energetic boundaries, why we need them, and how we install them. Because this is not something that we're taught. As a professional, I'm not taught about it in my training, not at massage school or lymphedema school. And we're not taught about it at work. We're not taught about it at school. And yet it's one of the most important boundaries that we can have in place. So I often have people coming in who are utterly exhausted and they don't know why. They eat well, they sleep, they exercise, they have a good life, but they are absolutely drained. Or more than likely, the person who comes in absolutely exhausted is the person who's a carer, the person who's looking after an elderly parent or a disabled child or a neighbor, and they just give so much of themselves that they're constantly exhausted. And they don't understand why, because everything else they're doing is great, but they can't shake this crippling fatigue. So that's what we're talking about today, why we get that way and what we can do to make it a little bit better. So the first question I like to ask is, what is a boundary? And quite often people will tell me an answer to that. And the answer actually is the definition of what a barrier is. So we can have boundaries and we can have barriers. Now, for me, a boundary is something where there's flow in and out. If you think of a boundary as something like if you've been to a farm and there are fences and you've got cows in a pen, the cows can stick their head through if somebody wanted to give them some food or something like that. Or you could stick a hand in to feed the cow. So there's a flow in and out of a boundary. But what a lot of us do unconsciously, we don't choose to do this. We may be in a situation where things aren't terribly pleasant. And so we put up a barrier. And that's almost like a brick wall. So there's no give or take. And that can be a huge lifesaver. It can be how we keep ourselves safe. And to me, a boundary is a way of keeping ourselves safe. A barrier is a way of cutting ourselves off. So what happens when we install a barrier for our own safety sometimes is that we actually cut ourselves off from our emotion. So we may not feel sad or depressed or angry, but we also don't feel joy or love. And the more delicate, softer emotions that are so important for us to actually experience. So understanding the difference that what we want to have is a barrier, not a barrier, it is a boundary. It's the end of the week. My brain is a little fried. What we want is something that has this flow of energy in and out. And why is that? Because when we don't have boundaries in place, energetic boundaries, that is, when we don't have energetic boundaries in place, we can easily take on other people's energy. And, you walk into a room, sometimes you think, oh no, there's so-and-so. I can't stand being around her because whenever I'm around that person, when I leave, she's just sucked all the energy out of me. And here's a little home truth. Nobody can suck the energy out of you without your permission. Now, obviously, you're not going, hey, Joe Bloggs, here's my energy. It's not a conscious choice to give your energy away. But by not having energetic boundaries, it's saying, hey, I'm open for business. You come take what you like. I'm not going to stop you. And that's, again, that's not something we're taught about, but it's really, really important. So if you find that you're the type of person who takes on other people's energy, then hopefully you'll get a little bit out of this chat. This is the right place for you to be. So what does it look like when we don't have those boundaries in place? It's what I was saying, the exhaustion. And when you have that utter exhaustion because, somebody is, can you do this? Oh, yes, of course. Oh, I haven't got enough money to get me through this weekend. Oh, here I have mine. Or, can you lend me this? Sure. And then you do without. So you're looking after others, giving others, but not looking after yourself. So there's this imbalance of energy that happens. So, what we want is a nice flow. If there's a boundary, we want a nice flow of I'm giving you energy, you're giving me energy, and there's this lovely give and take. But with the person who you feel you leave and your energy's sucked out of you, what's happened is your energy's gone out to them and they've not given you any back. So it's this imbalance of energy, which then leaves you feeling exhausted. And when you're exhausted, then you're more susceptible to getting sick, whether it's a cold, a flu, or something way more serious than that. If you're chronically exhausted, then all sorts of other health issues can crop up. So, learning about boundaries is an amazing thing to do for your health. And that's not to say that, if you've got an aged parent that you're looking for after, that you're going to say, oh, you know what, I'm done looking after you. You're on your own now. What I'd encourage is instead, because sometimes they're not even aware that they're being really demanding, sometimes it's okay to say, you know what, I'm going to do that, but I'll get to that later because I'm actually going for a walk right now. Very difficult to do, but it is about realizing that your needs are as important as somebody else's needs. And that can be a hard thing to hear. I understand that. But I encourage you to think about that and think about ways where you can still help people, but not at the expense of your own health. So good boundaries, good health. Poor boundaries, then you're more susceptible to poor health. If you're working and you've got poor energetic boundaries, then, oh my gosh, people will dump their work on you. And the classic example that I see time and time again is people who say, oh, well, I finished my work day. I'm working from home, but actually I meant to finish at 5, but I don't actually finish till 7 because there's so much to do. And if I don't do it, nobody else is going to do it. And it has to get done. And let me tell you, if you get the work done and continue to get the work done, the work will be put on you again and again and again because you get it done. And your boss doesn't really care that you're doing it in your own time. If you get overtime, then hey, knock yourself out. That's a different thing. That's a fair exchange of energy. You work overtime, you get paid for it. That is a balance of energy. If, however, you're choosing to work overtime to get the job done because you are a professional and you like to complete a job, and you're spending an extra hour or 2 working every day for no financial or time off, then that is you giving your energy and you're not getting energy back. So that leads to an imbalance of energy. And then you're exhausted all the time and you need to take sick days off, but you don't, because who's going to do the work? And so there's that cycle of not looking after yourself. And that's a really easy one to fall into. And once people get used to you doing all the work, they'll keep giving it to you because you are capable and you get stuff done. And that's the same with things like, and answering calls or texts after work hours or emails. And we've had legislation come in this week here in Australia where there are now rules around that because people were being exhausted and unrealistic demands were being made in the time that people should be resting. So I applaud that. That is fantastic. So work can be a real place where we have no energetic boundaries in place. Relationships is another, and that can be romantic relationships, family, friends, work colleagues. There are so many relationships that we have, and quite often we feel obligated. Oh, I've been invited to a barbecue on Sunday, but I know it's going to be really hot and I don't do well in the heat, but I can't say no because they'll be offended. And I'll go and I'll just suck it up. I'll suck it up. It'll be fine once I'm there. I'll suck it. It's fine. How many times have you done that sort of thing? That's quite a common one, and it's a really difficult thing to get out of if you're used to going along to everything that you're invited because you want to support people. Again, it's coming from this amazing place of you don't want to let people down. But sometimes it is okay to say no. And I invite you to practice saying no without a justification. Just no. Doesn't have to be no, because you know what, the heat really affects me and I feel because then you're giving them your story and you know what, hey, no, I can't make it, but thanks for the invite. It's much cleaner, and then there's not this toing and froing. Now, yes, with family, sometimes that doesn't work. I get that, and this is a very simplistic and naive, but hey, we're having a quick chat today. Can't give you all the tips. Around family, it's much harder because there's all of those emotional dynamics to play with. But it can be done. Just learning to say no, or this is what I'm doing, or this is what I need you to do without an explanation, just as a statement. And yeah, there'll be pushback. There'll be arguments, and you walk away. Very difficult to do. I get that. But I have done this in my own life. And yes, it's hard, but it is possible. And it probably was well over 50 years before I was able to do that. But you can. So no is a complete answer. Harder with family. Another thing sometimes is that we find it hard to ask for what we need, whether that's in a romantic or family or work. You're feeling pressured, there's too much work, or people at home aren't pulling their weight, or you're having to pay for everything financially. And so sometimes it's just important to say, hey, this is what I need. I can't do this on my own anymore, and I'd really like your support. That's a form of energetic boundary. Just stating what it is you need. Because much as I'd love everybody to be a mind reader, they are not. And so you can sit at home thinking, well, he should know that the kids need to do this and the kids need to do that, and I shouldn't have to tell him. Well, you know what? You have to tell him. Or, always going out for breakfast with a child or a friend and they never pay. It's like, Hey, how about today you pay? I forgot my wallet. I wouldn't throw in a little fib like that. That just energetically is a bit near, but you do what works for you. Just how about you pay today? I've paid the last 5 times. And it would be amazing because sometimes people may not realize that, oh, I thought you were cool with paying for me all the time. Great. Yeah, no, not a problem. So sometimes we just don't, we think people understand more than they do. And so a great energetic boundary is actually to ask for what we need. And that can be pretty difficult. Oh my gosh. So another, yeah, just saying no. That's just saying no. Ask for what you need, what you want. These are two amazing energetic boundaries to put in. And what you'll find is that you're less tired when you see people. You feel less drained and you're able to give more because there's this exchange of energy rather than always just coming from you, or you regain energy because you're saying no to a few things, not everything. You can't say no to everything. That wouldn't be very good for you because we need to be social. But just learning to cut back. And if you feel into your body, if you get asked to do something or to go somewhere, how does it feel in your body? Can you feel some resentment or frustration in your tummy? If you're aware of that, then I invite you to sort of think, oh, okay, this is feeling out of alignment on some level. So how am I going to deal with that so that I don't then go or do whatever I've been asked, but resent it so much that my body has physical sensation going on? It's a whole topic that I can talk about for a full hour. So we're not doing that today because there's not time. So how do we get some boundaries when we've never had them before, when we don't know what it feels like to have a boundary? Easier said than done, because we're in so many situations. It's not like we live on our own and we can make our decisions for ourselves. I mean, even if you're living in a shared house, it's like, well, who has control of the remote control and what you're watching on TV? It can be down to that level of, well, hello, how about we take turns in controlling the controller so that we each get to watch different things, or, negotiate what you want to watch. Things like that. It's little things that build up, all these little household things that we're not even aware is causing our bodies to have a reaction. So it's about noticing when you have the reaction and then taking a breath. Oh, wow, that's interesting. Okay, do I want to do this thing? Do I want to watch this? Do I want to go to this party? You know what? It'll be okay. I think I'll be okay going. So I'm going to say yes to that. Or if it's oh no, I just can't bear the thought of being around that particular group of people today or tomorrow or ever. I can't do it. It's just, I can't do it. And if you have that overwhelming feeling, then you make a decision based on that. So that's where the no comes in. So how do we install this button called energetic boundary? For me, one of the best ways to do it is by setting an intention. Sounds simple, right? But intentions are incredibly powerful. So if you set an intention that the next time you bump into XYZ person who you know drains your energy, when you see them, if you set an intention that, oh, I know this person sucks me dry, so I'm going to just put my hand on my heart or wherever, it could be on your belly or nowhere. I'm just going to take a slow breath in, close my eyes if I can, and I'm going to set the intention that on this occasion, I'm not allowing that person to have access to my energy. And I know that sounds very pie in the sky, but it actually works. And it takes 5 seconds to take that breath. That breath is a reset. It's a, oh, hang on. Let's let my nervous system know that it is okay to be present here now. Because, when we see that person, what we sometimes do is we energetically check out. It's like, oh, I'm out of here. My body's here, but I'm gone. I don't want to be here. And if we do that, then energetically, our field is completely open and we take that person's energy on, or they just take our energy. Either way, they probably dump a whole bunch of stuff on you and take the good stuff away from you. And I get that when there's some people you think, oh no, I can't. You know what? It's just gonna be like, I'm here, but I'm not really. I'm doing the yes, no, and I'm not engaging. So setting that intention that, you know what? It's okay for me to be around this person. I don't love being around them, but I consciously set the intention that I am not giving them access to my energy. Not happening, not today. You'd be surprised at how effective that is. And then you can expand that. And when you've left them, you can then set the intention, oh, this went well. Actually, I feel pretty good. So I now set the intention that whenever I see that person, I'm not giving them my energy. I'm going to bring my energy in closer rather than having my energy field wide open. I'm going to come in, and the breath and the hand on the body is saying, bring me back here. Bring me into my body rather than out there. Bring me into my body. If I'm present in my body, then I'm much more able to keep my energy here. So it's consciously being aware of who those drains are, what the requests that drain you are, and then consciously choosing to sit and ground as quickly as you can before you deal with that person or situation. So when it's something that, say, work or volunteer stuff or going to care for a parent, and again, it's about intention. I'm a fan of rituals. So say, for example, you're going into work and you know that there are 2 or 3 people at work who just absolutely drain you. So before you leave home, it's about setting the intention that I'm standing fully in my energy today and every day, but today, one day at a time. And creating a ritual about how you're going to do that. So that could be that when you get into work, you sit and you take 3 deep breaths before you turn the computer on, before you get the cup of coffee, before you do anything else. You come, you sit, you take some breaths, your energy lands where you are, and you set the intention, I'm present here today, and my energy is my own. Now, for me, when I come into the clinic, I have a load of different rituals that I like to do and intentions that I set about clearing energy and having strong energy and strong energetic boundaries. Not enough time to go into all of those today, but there are so many different ways that you can do that. But setting the intention and setting up a ritual. So you have an opening ritual. I'm coming into work. I'm giving my attention fully here. This is what I'm doing today. And then at the end of the day, as you switch your computer off, consciously, I am closing down my energy today. This is the end of my work day. And when I leave work or caring or whatever it is you're doing or a family gathering, as I leave, I'm shutting down that energy and I'm leaving my work energy behind, or the energy of work. I'm leaving it behind. I'm going to get in the car, and when I walk through the door at home, I set the intention, this is home time. This is my time to nurture. This is my safe space. Now, sometimes you have to go home and do a bit more work, or you have to follow up on something. If you're caring for an older person, you need to make an appointment. That's different. That's different. But you're not bringing that person's energy or that work's energy back home with you, because you're consciously choosing to have a little boundary around that's work, that's home. And a good example was during COVID, when everybody was working from home. I really encouraged people, you get up in the morning, you have a shower if you're a morning showerer, you brush your teeth, you have your breakfast, and you put some clean clothes on. It doesn't matter if it's trackies, but you get into different clothes. So you don't go and open up your computer wearing your pajamas, having not brushed your teeth, and start working, because there's no difference between home and work. Even though you're working from home, there needs to be that difference. And you stop and have a break, and then have a lunch break, and then at whatever time you finish working, work is finished. And so if you have an office where you can close the door, close the door. Work is done. That's closed. That's a ritual. That workday is done. Now I'm in my home time. Even if you're working from home, it doesn't matter. It's about having a ritual. This is the beginning of my workday. This is the end of my workday. This is the beginning of my time. And if you go to a social event, well, I'm here at the social event, and now this social event is done. And I'm going home into my own space. So it can be adapted for whatever is going on for you. So a great way to set and reset boundaries is getting out into nature. And I know that everybody says this, but it is so important. Whether that's going for a walk, going for a swim, getting out into the bush, the mountains, that whatever you have around you. And if you don't have nature around you, then visualize it. Sit in a quiet space, close your eyes, and imagine walking along the beach. Listen to the sound of the waves, smell the salty sea, hear the seagulls, feel the warm sand and the warm sun and the breeze. So bring in all of your senses and create in your mind, in your body, because your body feels that. Create a scenario where you are out in nature. Because our bodies can't tell the difference between perceived, so how we create it in our heads, or real, which is fantastic and scary all in one. Because if you're one who has circular negative thoughts all of the time, I've had this situation happen, and oh my gosh, if I'd done this, and so you spend half of your day thinking negative thoughts about that event. Each time you have those thoughts, your body relives it. So the great boundary is, okay, ooh, look, I've got that negative thought happening. I'm going to replace it with the thought of me taking a lovely walk down by the beach and feeling all the senses of being down by the beach. And that calms your body down. When your body's calm, then you can take that breath and you can call your energy back and let go of the energy that doesn't work for you. So lots of different ways of doing that using very short visualizations. And you can even create one for yourself that is your go-to. If you're feeling a bit, oh, you've seen somebody and they've zapped you, then take yourself into your hiding spot and spend 2 minutes creating that scene of being out in nature. And that calms your body down and releases some of the energy that you've taken on from those people, and you can call back energy that you've given away. And I'll talk about that. So being present, being mindful as you're doing things, that is really important for your boundaries. So like I say, when you see that person who you just don't love being around and you think, oh no, I'm checking out, I'm going, that's not being mindful. And when you're not mindful, then you're open to that energy exchange that isn't terribly beneficial. So being present to what you're doing and getting into the habit of being mindful, for me, I love ironing. I'm one of those weird people because I sit there and I can see something changing in front of my eyes. And sometimes I watch TV, but quite often I can just sit there and I watch this thing changing. I'm like, oh, I can smell the smell of the clothes that are clean and I can see how it smooths out and I can feel the steam coming off of the iron and the noise as it goes. And it's just about being really present to what you're doing. And when we're present, we're in our body. So energetically, we're less likely to be giving our energy away. It's a really simple thing. So you can, if meditation is not your thing, then you can use a simple prayer. You know, it can be as simple as saying a Hail Mary, or just making up your own prayer, because that brings you into your body and that sets an intention that you are bringing a beautiful, softer energy in to your field. So there are lots and lots of different ways to work to bring in those energetic boundaries. A really good one, and I know lots of people do this, but I always say it, turn off the news. If you watch the news and your body has a visceral reaction, then switch off the news. It's not doing you any good. You know what? Whenever anything major happens, you're going to hear about it anyway. People will tell you, or you might hear it in the car. But this cycle of news, it's all designed to be sensational. And it's like it punches holes in your energetic field, in your aura. It physically punches holes. And when you have those holes in your aura, that's when you take other people's energy on. So I'm going to talk about the aura in a minute. I have a list of notes here because otherwise I'd never remember everything. But listening to your body is one of the most important ways that you can understand when your energetic boundaries are down and when they're up, because your body gives you very, very clear messages. We just don't listen to them. Not in that way. Our body's giving us fantastic information, and we just, again, we're not taught to listen to our bodies. So the aura thing, I kind of have to explain that if I'm talking about energetic boundaries. So we've got our physical body, and then we also have energy bodies, and we can just call them energy bodies. There's the physical the emotional, mental, spiritual, etheric. So, and many others. Those are just a few of the energy bodies around us. So what happens is in our aura, our energy field or our energy body, it would be great if that was just this whole intact thing, keeping us fully protected, although I don't like using that word when it comes to energy, because what you resist persists. So if you're talking about protection, then there's going to be an attack kind of thing. So I'm careful about using that word, but it's kind of appropriate here. So if you imagine that you've got your physical body and there's this bubble of white light around you, if we just simplify it to that bubble of white light, and you know, it's whole, it's intact, you're inside of your bubble of light, other people are outside, and we can have an interaction because that bubble of light is permeable. But what can happen is watching things like the news and little holes get into that bubble of light. So you still have a bubble of light around you, but it's not intact. And then somebody can be walking past you on the street or at the mall. The mall is a great place for taking on other people's energy. Oh, and so I encourage you, if ever you go to a shopping center or a mall or anything like that, consciously create that bubble of light around you before you walk in there. Because, oh my word, that is a perfect example of how we take on other people's energy. So you could be walking down the street or at the mall, minding your own business, and somebody walks past you and they're having an awful day or an awful life generally. And what happens is, because we've got this energy field around us, that's the first thing that talks or communicates between us. Sometimes, you know, our energy field can be huge. And so you can be walking into a building and your energy is already in the room that you're going to. And so that energy field is the first interaction. It's not when you see somebody. That's not our first interaction. So you can be on the street and somebody's walking close to you, or not even that close, and their energy field comes across yours, and it's like, oh, ooh, this feels nice. Oh, I'm just going to grab some of that because, oh, that feels really good. That feels way better than what I'm carrying around. And they walk away from you, having probably not even made eye contact. And they walk away and they're feeling so much, oh, I feel so much better. I wonder what that's about. And you walk away thinking, oh my God, what just happened? I feel dreadful. And it can be as simple as that, as a random, not even connection, just this random walking past of somebody. So imagine that at the mall, that's times 500, because there's so many people there and I've got to find this and I've stress. I haven't got enough time to do it and get the perfect present. And there's all this really dense energy around. And if you're nice and wide and open, then it's like, oh, I'll take some of your energy here. You have mine. And so that puts more holes in your energy field, in your aura. So then you get more and more permeable, where you're taking on more and more and you're exhausted all the time. Which, again, I know it sounds very simplistic, but I'm making it simplistic to show you visually what it's like. And I bet you're thinking, well, how do I change that? So that's the intention. So the intention of, I call all of my energy back to me now. And the intention that I release any energy that I've taken on which does not belong to me, or any energy which no longer serves my highest good. I release it back to where it came from. Now we can get more and more complicated around that, but you don't need to. When you're starting, it all needs to be very simple. So I call back any energy I've given away. And it's almost like you can imagine it coming and, zapping back into you, and visualize that bubble of white light that's around you becoming complete. And I release any energy which doesn't belong to me, and send that energy back to wherever it came from. You don't need to know where it came from. You can send it to the universe. You can send it down to the earth. You can send it to love. Whatever words work for you. But it's a thing of constantly, I call my energy back, I release what no longer serves. And getting into that habit, particularly if you see people, then when you leave seeing those people, that's part of your ritual. I call my energy back, I release anything that no longer serves. That's one of the most powerful things. So when you go out, imagine, visualize in whatever shape or form. It could be a sphere, a bubble. It can be a triangle. It can be a cube. It can be, whatever you want it to be. And it can be any color. We don't need to get fixated. Oh, am I doing it right? Am I doing it? Oh, because this is another way we give our energy away. Am I doing it right? Oh, this couldn't be right. Oh, no. And then we get so much in our heads that we're not in our body. And that, again, that's how we give our energy away. So set the intention that when you step out of the door, you've got your bubble of light, or, you can use all sorts of different words. You can imagine having an armor of light, an armor of God, with a helmet and a shield. Have fun with it. It doesn't need to be serious. And in fact, the universe has a great sense of humor. And so make it fun. The more lighthearted it is, the more powerful it is, because it comes easily. So it doesn't need to be this, oh, I'm going to have this metal around me, because then we're blocking everything out. That's the barrier rather than the boundary. So we want it to be light and fun. And so when you get back in your car after having been at the mall, install that bubble of light or the armor, whatever, again, and do the I release, I call back. And you're just doing it after every interaction. And what you start to notice is that your energy levels physically start to improve. Even if you have to do the things that you don't necessarily want to do, even if you're pressured into doing something and I just don't want to do it, if you set up the boundaries before you go and do that thing, then you're not going to leave it feeling as drained as you do normally. So, that bubble of light before you go and do to the barbecue that you don't want to go because Myrtle's there and she pushes every button. You set the intention that Myrtle's not going to push your buttons, and you have that bubble of light. And even while you're there, bubble of light, bubble of light, bubble of light, just keep installing it. And then release it all when you leave. I'd love anybody who's watching this, if you at least take that on, I'd love you to come back to me and say whether you have found that this has worked in, say, 6 weeks' time, if you remember to do it. It would be really interesting to me to see that. Now, I am going to give you the biggest and bestest energetic boundary that you can ever do, and you're not going to like it. Put yourself first. When I say that, how does that feel in your body? Are you feeling your body going, no? If you put your needs first, so invited to a barbecue, Myrtle's going to be there and it's going to be 40 degrees and humid and I just don't want to do this. No, but I can't say no, so I'm going to go. You're going to be exhausted. But if you think, you know what, this isn't going to be really good for me. This is going to push me over the edge and it's going to take me 2 days to recover physically from the heat and Myrtle. Then saying, I'm sorry, thank you for the invite, but I can't make it. That is a radical act of self-care, self-love, and boundaries. Putting yourself first. It's the whole thing that they tell you on the aeroplane with the oxygen that drops down. Put yours on first, because if you don't have yours on first, you cannot help anybody else. And it's the same thing. If you look after everybody else and put everybody else's needs ahead of yours, then you become an empty bucket. And eventually you'll collapse and people go, oh, what do you mean? Oh, you need help, but you're usually so good. Oh. But that's a really confronting thought, isn't it? That your needs come first. If you just feel that, no, I can't do that, what I actually need to do is I need to have a nap, then what's going to serve you better? What's going to have you feeling better physically, emotionally, mentally? Having the nap. But it's about learning to have the nap without then feeling guilty, that takes practice. That takes time. But the self-care is one of the best ways you can install an energetic boundary. It's simple, yet really difficult to put into place. Okay. I don't know if there are any questions. You can type them into the chat box if you have any. If not, then I'm going to talk about how you can find out more, because this was really just a little introduction. This topic is way too big to cover in one short chat. There's so many levels of complexity and simplicity. So I ran a course last year, a beginner's guide to understanding energy. 8 weeks, 8 classes about different aspects of energy. And then if you were doing it in person, there were 4 one-on-one sessions, and there were meditations and a resource list, all sorts of different things. And the topics were things like demystifying all the new age BS, things like spiritual words that they push my buttons. I try to keep it really down to earth and practical. And a lot of these spiritual words, they're just fluffy. Obviously, we talked about energetic boundaries. And in fact, there were 2 classes on energetic boundaries because it's such a big and important topic, probably the most important topic. There were expectations because a lot of people kind of think, oh, but if I become spiritual, then, people are going to think I'm weird. And, do I have to wear tie-dye and crushed velvet? And it's about getting rid of all of those sort of myths as well, how you appear in the world as a spiritual being. It doesn't need to be all woo-woo. I'm a spiritual being. Everything I do has an energetic component to it. And I like to think I appear as normal. Maybe I don't. I don't know. It's okay. It's none of my business how I appear to other people. So we talked about the chakra system and the energy body and how we can learn to recognize when things are out of alignment. and what we can do to bring them back into alignment. We talk about beliefs and how powerful words are. So how we talk to ourselves, how we talk about ourselves to other people, how much power words can have. And of course, we talk about intuition and listening to our bodies, listening to what our bodies are trying to say. So, you know, go to the party with Myrtle or listen to your body, which is going, no, no. It's learning to think, okay, well, let's do what's best for my body. And the last class that we did was how to create. So that could be, if you have to go to the party with Myrtle, how you create that party so that you come away feeling energized and not depleted. So there's all sorts of different topics. And I'm running that course again. I'm starting it next month. And the topics may change. It depends on the group of people. It's a lovely way to do it. If you would rather not do the whole thing of having the one-on-one sessions where we talk about your particular needs and energetic questions, and we do some integration around that as well energetically, then I have the recordings from the 8 classes and 2 extra classes that I did as a bonus. I have the recording for those good to go. And you can just download those and watch them all in your own time. So all of that information is on my website under the tab, How to Work with Me, and then you'll see a beginner's guide to understanding energy. So all of the information is there, and you can go and have a look and send me any questions. Now, is there anything I can specifically answer for you now? And if not, then I'm going to say goodbye. But what I might do is I'm going to end with a closing ritual, which is I invite you to put your hand on your heart or your belly or both. Close down your eyes. And I encourage you to take a deep, slow breath in. And out. And I'd like you to set the intention that you will take on any of the information that resonates for you from this chat, and you will release any of the information which isn't relevant to you, which didn't resonate, which doesn't feel like it's going to work for you. And you release that. Because not all of it will resonate, and that's okay. If you disagree with any of what I've said, that's okay. You don't need to believe any of it because I've said that it's true. That's another way of having boundaries, is that you get to choose what you believe and what you don't, or what works for you and what doesn't. So one last breath in and out. And I thank you so much for joining me here this afternoon. Let me know if you have any questions. Just send me a message and I'd be more than happy to chat with you. Have a lovely weekend.